Let's bring in another eyewitness. Joining us now, reporter for the Deseret News, Eva Terry. She was at the event and saw the shooting. Eva, what happened?
Hi. So we were about 3 or 4 rows back. I was there with another reporter from the Deseret News, Emma Pitts. And the question had just come up about how many transgender shooters there had been. And they went back and forth. Charlie Kirk answered once. The student asking a question, he asked something else, and Charlie went to pick up the microphone to answer, and it looked like he was shot in on the left side of his neck. There was a lot of blood, and he went limp, and he started to fall backwards.
And did you see him? What happened in that immediate moment? He fell backwards. What happened then?
So a lot of the people, because we had been there early since around 9 a.m. We were interviewing lots of people just about the atmosphere. And the audience initially thought it was a firecracker. It was really light sound. And so then something was obviously wrong. Everyone dropped to the ground. And then we ran off, cowered there for about probably 30, 40 seconds. Saw the coast was, well, I don't know if we definitely did not think it was clear, but we ran off to get shelter in another part of the building. We hid under a desk, just contacted our editors.
The university says somebody's in custody. Did you see that person?
So from the people we had talked to earlier, we found them again afterwards, and they had gotten video of the police taking off this man who looked like he was in his probably late 60s, an older man wearing a uniform, and that's who they had took into custody, but we're not sure if he was the person who was shot. I don't think that's confirmed yet.
There's a lot of police activity behind you, a lot of uniformed officers, a lot of people in a military uniform as well. What is happening there on campus right now?
I think they've evacuated all of the students. I talked to another student he was in biology class, and everyone was forced to leave. So they've taken pretty much everyone out. There's a lot. I don't know if you can see all of the stuff going on behind me.
Yeah, I do see that. So campus has been evacuated. After it happened, how quickly did people realize that they didn't witness a firecracker? They witnessed a shooting.
The people I had talked to, the students I had talked to afterwards, thought that it had been a firecracker. But everyone dropped. Everyone knew something was wrong immediately, because you look up and Charlie Kirk is gone. He's fallen.
How are the students doing now?
We saw people crying. It's really shaken a lot of people up, because a lot of the girls we had talked to before and guys were freshmen, underclassmen, and they're really excited to see a podcaster that they really liked. But people are scared.
Do you think it's going to change habits? Do people feel like they're going to be able to go to events like this openly in the future?
I'm sure UV will have a lot more security going forward to events. Metal detectors, maybe.
We got word that Charlie was there with one of his children. Did you see if that was the case?
His child was not on the stand with him. He didn't bring him up or introduce that he was there. So I didn't see him. He wasn't broadcasted.
Let's hope he wasn't there. Eva, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry you had to witness that. I know you're a reporter, but nobody should have to witness something like that themselves. It is just a horrible thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your words.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe.
Tonight, President Donald Trump's 30-day crime emergency in Washington, D.C. will officially expire. And even though his takeover of the city's police department is ending, National Guard troops and federal agents will stay on patrol, at least for now. Last night, President Trump marked the occasion by going out to dinner in the nation's capital.
The restaurants now are booming. People are going out to dinner where they didn't go out for years. And it's a safe city. And I just want to thank the National Guard. We loved working with the mayor and the chief. And we all work together, and the outcome is really spectacular. We have a capital that's very, very safe.
But as this emergency expires, important questions remain, like just how successful was this federal surge and which U.S. city might be next. Joining us now, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller and CNN Senior Crime and Justice Correspondent Shimon Prokupecz. But first, we start with CNN's Gabe Cohen, who's looking at the numbers for us at the magic wall. Of course, the question we're trying to answer here by looking at the data is whether this was actually the spectacular success that Trump claims it is.
Yeah, and that is a complicated question, obviously, Boris, but I want to show you the overall DC crime stats over the past 30 days and how they compare to last year, because this is one important piece of it, and it's one that even local officials point to these numbers and say, this has been the upside of the surge. So these are the violent crime statistics, down 40% compared to those 30 days last year. Nonviolent crimes, you can see less, down 12%, way more in line with that trend that we were already seeing in D.C., which is, despite what President Trump has been saying, crime is dropping in D.C. It has been over the past couple of years, but not like this, not like these violent crime drops that we're seeing. And if you break down the numbers even further, you can see homicides down 50%, robberies down 57%, carjackings down 70-some%. But if you talk to local officials, particularly law enforcement, and say, why is this happening? They point to one specific aspect of this surge and takeover that we have seen, and that is the collaboration that's happening, particularly overnight, every night, between local police and specific federal agencies, FBI, DEA, ATF, who are pumping in more than 500 federal officers each night to go out into high crime areas, to take guns off the streets, and to arrest people. For years now, local officials here in D.C. have been saying, we have too few officers. We are missing hundreds of them. Now they are getting that surge that they've been asking for. So that, they say, is working, and you can expect that collaboration to continue. What they don't like are the National Guard troops, more than 2,000 of them who are deployed right now to high traffic areas around the city. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see troops in the city. They also do not like the presence of masked ICE agents who have been out making violent arrests and creating these very tense moments with local residents, creating, frankly, what some are calling terror in communities across D.C.
So now that this emergency designation expires tomorrow, what are the streets of D.C. going to look like in 24 hours?
Okay, so the short answer is they're going to look very similar to how they look today. Not that much is going to functionally change. The biggest thing that changes when the emergency expires at midnight is that the president loses his authority to be able to, in a sweeping manner, commandeer any local police resources that he wants for federal purposes. That means he has been able to demand that local police help with, for example, immigration enforcement, ICE raids. Now, starting tomorrow, the mayor and the police chief are going to have the authority again to be able to say no. And there's already indication that they are not going to work with ICE in the same way that they have been in recent weeks. They're not going to transport people they arrest. They're not going to assist with many of their stops the way they have been forced to do. The National Guard, though, that does not end. Their orders have been extended through at least November. There's no indication that's going to be cut short, and we know that federal agents, including ICE, can still operate in the city. It just is that the mayor now has a bit more authority. And then I talked about those overnight collaborations. You can expect those are going to continue in full, unless, of course, the Trump administration decides we want to pull back some of those resources.
All right, Gabe, let's walk over back to John and Shimon, because there are some lessons, perhaps some implications that we can garner based on what's been happening in the nation's capital that may soon apply in cities across the country. John, Gabe was talking about the added manpower, the federal troops that are coordinating with local officials here. A lot of that has to do with gaps in how many local law enforcement officials were here in D.C. fighting crime. Is that a problem that is exclusive to D.C., or is that lack of manpower something we see across the country?
Oh, by no means. First of all, Boris, police departments across the country are down and struggling with recruiting efforts. Chicago is in a critical situation. They're short probably more than 2,000 cops, which is a big hit to operate on that kind of shoestring, especially when your main challenge in a place like Chicago is going to be shootings and murders. Now, the good news is both shootings and murders are down dramatically. The bad news is, even with these decreases of 25% and 24% and 33% in robberies, they're still operating on a level of crime that is higher than that they would want it to be, higher per capita than New York City. So what do you do with these National Guardsmen? And I think the lesson you take from Washington, D.C. is they may not want them. They're not going to affect shootings and murders. They're not going to patrol the street and take police calls. But when you're in Chicago and you have Michigan Avenue or Lakeshore Drive, men with axes attacked a Rolex store the other day and stole $170,000 worth of watches. 6 are in custody now. Or cars have been driven through store windows. That kind of crime is unlikely to happen if those commercial areas are lined with 5 or 6 soldiers with pistols and rifles and a Humvee parked there. So they could, just as a uniformed presence, perform a lot of good. They could also do perimeter at crime scenes, freeing up other units to go back on patrol.
Yeah, supporters of the idea of having National Guard troops across cities like this argue that having their eyes and ears there alone is something that prevents crime. Obviously, critics go against that. But Shimon, you're in Chicago right now. We were expecting this immigration crackdown as of last week. What are you seeing on the ground there?
So, Boris, it's the best way to describe it. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of sadness over what's going on. Over this concern that ICE agents are mobilizing and law enforcement working with ICE agents are mobilizing here in Chicago. We're in an area called Little Village, which is sort of referred to as like the heart of Mexico. This is the Mexican community, the third largest population of Hispanics by some estimates in this country. They're really feeling it here. We had the governor yesterday talking about how, from what they understand, some 100 law enforcement officials have been surged into this area to deal with this potential operation. And they're expecting some 200 vehicles here from law enforcement working with ICE agents. And everyone is very unclear as to how this is going to happen, what's going to happen. But the fear here is palpable. I mean, I was talking to people all along 26th Street here. There's supposed to be a parade here, a festival, Mexican Independence on Sunday. That is a big deal for Chicago. Some estimates say 400,000 people could attend or have previously attended. That's not going to happen this year because of the fear. And when you walk up and down 26th Street here, you could see it. I went into a barbershop to talk to an owner there, and she told me she has customers that are afraid to leave their homes to come to the barbershop for haircuts. And in some cases, they're calling her in advance, asking if she's seeing any ICE agents outside the barbershop. She compared it almost to the pandemic, she told me. That's the numbers they're seeing, the low number of people that are in the shops buying things here along 26th Street. This is a big week for them. And the fact that the administration is threatening this during this week is certainly very significant and has many people asking questions. I also spoke to a snack food delivery man. This really tells you what's going on here. A lot of the shops that buy snacks from this individual, they're not buying them right now because they can't get anything off the shelves because kids are not coming into the stores to buy anything. And most people are afraid to talk to us on camera. They don't want to be targeted, and they feel that if they speak out, they will be targeted. However, I did speak to the local alderman here who talked about that fear and certainly what the businesses are feeling. Take a listen.
We are getting reports from some businesses that business is down as much as 60%. Other businesses are saying they're strong and they're doing well. The fact is, migrants here in the city of Chicago, immigrants along 26th Street, create $900 million in economic activity here on 26th Street. Over 1,000 businesses doing business here on 26th Street. They're worried. They're very worried.
So where I'm standing here, Boris, is these are street vendors. They come here every year, 3 weeks before the parade on Sunday. And I was talking to the gentleman who owns this, and he said this year definitely the numbers are down like they've never seen. People are not buying anything. They're just not out. But one of the things that really struck me, he's been here in this country. He's Mexican. He's been in this country since he's 7 years old. And he and his wife do not leave their home without their passport. They are citizens of this country. They have lived here for quite some time. But he said he's afraid that he's going to be targeted because of the way he looks.